All right. Well, who are you? What do you do? Where are you from? Tell me about yourself.
I'm Ryan Armagost, state representative for Colorado House District 64. Prior to that, I did 22 years in the military and 10 years in law enforcement, 2 years
Wow.
as a firefighter.
What branch for the military?
I started Marine Corps and did that for about 6 years and then came over to the Colorado Army National Guard, came
Wow.
back home to the Colorado Army National Guard and finished 16 years there.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service. It sounds like you have a lot of experience with guns
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, I want to jump right into this because we were actually friends on Facebook before I saw any of this going down. But maybe a week or two ago now, I also follow Rocky Mountain Gun Owners page. Well, I saw that they started posting about you and lots of negative things. And I'm very open minded. Like, I haven't really, I don't really have a dog in this fight. But I'm also friends with you on Facebook, and I see a lot of pro Second Amendment things. You're wearing like the T-shirts, and obviously you have experience in the military and law enforcement. What's their beef, man? What's going on?
It's personal. It just comes down to personal issues. And I've known Dudley for many years now, and I've known him to have that personality. He and I never had any issues until I got into politics.
Does he like lead Rocky Mountain Gun Owners?
Yeah, he basically it's one of that's where he started. He went and opened up a National Association of Gun Rights,
Okay.
NAGR. So he kind of does that and lets Ian Escalante run Rocky Mountain Gun Owners.
Okay.
So it's been through several hands in the last few years, but basically, when you go against the grain with Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, you become an enemy, no matter what your political affiliation is. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. It's stuff that definitely could have been handled behind closed doors, but I'm not one to just roll over
Yeah.
and take whatever they're going to throw at me. So
And so you said going against the grain with them. What did you do that they didn't approve of?
I think the biggest thing that things started from with them was the fact that I mentioned people that went door to door from for the opposing legislators on Senate Bill 3.
Yeah.
And I didn't name them. I just said people, but they took immediate offense and lashed out very aggressively. So from there, it just kind of has been back and forth. It's just
Yeah.
and on both sides, neither of us were in the right on it. But I just simply was on the defense the whole time. But it's definitely something that should have happened behind closed doors.
Yeah. So, so just for people who don't know all the details, like so you said you called out people kind of vaguely going door to door. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what was their contention with that?
Well, because it was them that did it.
Okay.
But they organized the group that did that.
Is there an issue with going door to door?
No, I don't think there is. I think in this case, though, as sensitive as the people that were opposing that or supporting that bill were, well, the Democrats, as sensitive as they are to things like that, the bad part about it is it cost us 2 potential votes that wouldn't have killed the bill. The bill still would have passed. It's just, it was unfortunate that was 2 more votes we could have had to at least get closer to killing the bill. But unfortunately, the bill was destined to pass, and it just created a lot of division within. Just, I think everyone was standing in a circle, pointing fingers across the way. So.
Yeah. Okay, so just to clarify, 2 Democrats who could have potentially voted with the Republicans changed their votes because Rocky Mountain Gun Owners was going door to door. And why would that be a deciding factor for them?
There was one legislator that spoke about his wife being home while he was at the Capitol, and she answered the door to somebody there, giving her a flyer. She felt intimidated. He brought that up among his people, and it caused a big flurry.
Well, it's hard. That's difficult because if you're not there, I mean, maybe they were really being aggressive or intimidating, or maybe they're just door to door.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, they could be selling you a vacuum, and you could say you.
And we do that during election cycles. The same thing. We go door to door. The only downside of it is that I got accused by the Democrats for being part of it. I just said that wasn't part of our Second Amendment caucus. That was Rocky Mountain Gun Owners.
Okay, so they felt like you threw them under the bus. Kind of.
Rocky Mountain Gun Owners did.
Yeah. Okay.
So it all came down to simply a beef between, well, obviously there's a beef between them and the Democrats, but there were more that kind of switched their vote or otherwise flipped their vote without anyone knowing. the day of, I asked people if they were still going to be a no on the bill, and people are like,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I'm probably going to be a yes now. It's like, well, okay.
Yeah.
So, but again, I don't think it was going to be enough to kill the bill. I think the bill would have passed anyway, just because of, I think, everything that was behind that bill, which is the governor's support and everything else to get it where he wanted. The bill was destined to pass probably the way it passed.
Yeah.
In the form that it passed. So
it's so bizarre because I mean, I think they actually used the word sabotage, that you would sabotage their efforts to kill this bill, or at least to moderate it. But if I'm understanding you correctly, it sounds like you're saying that they had already flipped the votes and blamed you, and then you said, well, I wasn't even part of this. So how are they claiming that you sabotaged it? I don't understand.
I think it's just a way of lashing out and getting the rest of the 2A community to be against me.
Do you feel like that they feel the need that they have to deflect blame elsewhere? Because they are like the number one gun lobby in Colorado. And so if their efforts didn't work, then a lot of people are going to blame them.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe they needed a scapegoat or something?
Maybe, but I think, again, a lot of people were doing it, but the rest of us that were doing that immediately came back to being like, okay, we can all own this. This is, we did what we could. We beat it up as good as we could, and it still passed. So
yeah. And by the way, I'm sure you're sick of talking about all this, so I appreciate you humoring me for this. But another thing that they said was that you supported legislation that would have allowed illegal immigrants to become police officers. What is that all about?
So that was a bill I did in 2023 that is not illegal immigrants, but DACA recipients, the Deferred Action for Citizenship. Those are people that are brought here sometimes by illegal immigrants. Otherwise, they're here on student work visas, whatever. They're just either getting their citizenship, waiting for their citizenship, or finding ways to work here, but they aren't here illegally. They were brought, usually kids that are either born here or brought here at a very young age and grow up in that.
Right.
Obama was the one.
They're not technically citizens, though, right?
Yeah. Non-citizens. So Obama started the DACA term, the Dreamers.
Right.
And then before that, they were just called non-citizens. And I was in boot camp in 1995. I had 3 non-citizens in boot camp with me. One from China, one from Mexico, one from, Honduras.
So the DACA recipients are allowed to serve in the military. Really?
And that's been that way since before I've been in the military.
That's interesting. Do you know when they began allowing them to serve?
No. I would say during any wartime, I'm sure they were willing to take whoever would be willing to come in, but
that's interesting.
Not adversarial countries, but countries that we're friendly with.
So just to clarify, you're not saying like some MS-13 gang member is going to now be a police officer, right?
Or cartel member or something. Yeah. Yeah. It's not anything that all that it did was it's an opt-in. So if a law enforcement agency they open the door for people to start applying. Typically on a big law enforcement, I work for Larimer County Sheriff's Office. We get 300 applicants for 2 positions to fill. They have to weed through those. If they find somebody that's just the perfect applicant, except the only downside is, they pass their background, they pass their polygraph, everything about them just screams law enforcement. They're meant to be, but they can't hire them because of their citizenship. Now this gives them the opportunity to get a waiver from the Attorney General's office to hire them as a police officer.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, I certainly didn't know. I think if people knew that they're already allowed to serve in the military, that would actually be a big factor.
Yeah. And that's the hard thing in legislation is I know that most people don't, unless people served with people like that in the military, they wouldn't know that.
And after that, it more becomes a debate over whether DACA recipients should be, considered citizens or not, or are they illegal? That's more of a gray area, I guess, with the citizenship question.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's interesting. That I think once people hear that would give them a lot of kind of they would feel better about the situation, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
So so back to the Rocky Mountain gun owner thing. It's so I mean, first of all, are you pro Second Amendment?
Absolutely.
Okay. So do you support SB 003?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. And what do you think was there anything else that could be done? Obviously, you probably would have done that if that were the case, but I mean...
I sat through, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I sat through every committee hearing it was in. I wasn't in the committee of every committee that was in, but I was in my office during the Senate hearings. I was in my office during finance and appropriations. I sat on judiciary, so I was in the committee for that bill in judiciary.
Yeah.
We did everything we could on the advice of Rocky Mountain gun owners, on the advice of other lobbies and industries and FFLs that we were in communication with regularly. We did everything that we could to try to amend and have sit downs with the governor, have sit downs with the bill sponsors, and try to get them to understand the detrimental damage that would do to our state and to the businesses and revenue for Colorado. And it was there was definitely something higher pushing that bill through.
Yeah.
Lobbies, out of state, the Giffords, the Bloomberg and everything. I think there was a lot more power behind that bill than anyone gave it credit for. And I think we all knew with the direction it was going and how it morphed in every time it was heard, that it was going to end up getting to where the governor wanted and get it passed.
Right. I heard that over time it became a little bit less extreme, like a little bit watered down, not by much, but where was it when it started? And then what were kind of the big things that were taken out by the time it was actually signed, if anything?
Initially, it was to ban the sale of anything that had a detachable magazine, essentially. And the only way to get around it is to get a manufactured AR-15 or AR rifle with the magazine permanently attached, which is, you would have to have a completely different design rifle for that. Yeah. So just the way it was basically another assault weapons ban altogether. So it was going to be something that not only would it have killed the businesses, the FFLs and everything else, but it would have killed the gun industry, the ability for anyone to buy a firearm for any reason, but especially for personal protection.
So the main operative language now, the main difference between where it started, where it is that yes, maybe you can have the guns, but you have to basically take a class. Do you have to take a class every time you buy a gun, or is it just you take one class and you're good for the rest of your life?
It's not the rest of your life. I want to say, I remember it was annual at one point. It might be a few years, but yeah, it's kind of going to be treated the same as a concealed carry permit. Okay. But it's a different requirement. So you can't get a concealed carry permit and be okay to buy. It's going to be its own course.
Okay. Would you mind just like laying down kind of like your general philosophy on the Second Amendment? So you're a firearms instructor, former military, former law enforcement. Like, I don't know how you get a better Second Amendment reputation than that. But can you just like give us a rough outline of like what is your stance on the Second Amendment? Do you support like fully automatic weapons? Do you like to what extent are you okay with background checks, if any? Bump stocks, like just, I don't know, give us like an idea of where you're actually at.
Yeah, I think everyone has the God-given right to own firearms, keep them at home for personal protection, but also to prevent the overrunning of a tyrannical government, which is what it was intended for from our forefathers.
Right.
The law enforcement side of me also likes the idea that we don't have felons and we don't have violent offenders, especially that are able to obtain firearms the same as the rest of us. So for me, I think the thing that we're up against now is something that we weren't up against back in the 1700s, and that's the mental illness and the violent crime that we have. And with that, I mean, I'm definitely 100% behind law-abiding gun owners having their Second Amendment rights. Do I think background checks should be for everybody? No, but I think if you do make those mistakes and you victimize other people and take their rights away, you shouldn't have the same rights as everybody else.
What about like a waiting period? Do you support like a 3-day waiting period or something like that now?
No, the mentality behind that is that there's a cool down. If somebody goes through a mental crisis, they have this. They go to buy a gun. They have a 3-day cool off period where they can. Oh, now I don't want to use that for what I was intending to use it for. Which is nonsense. If somebody is in a crisis, they're going to find a means to do harm to somebody because that's what sick people do, evil people do.
Right.
But
the only thing that cooldown period does is prevent the person that needs the gun the most to actually get one. So like if you have a woman who's being stalked or sexually harassed or something that she's like in fear for her safety, it's like, oh, you're going to make her wait 3 days, really.
And we offered a waiver for that so that somebody could get just like getting an emergency concealed carry permit in Colorado, they don't have to go through that 3 months of waiting. They can get one the same day.
What do you think about constitutional carry?
I like constitutional carry. I think it's ridiculous that we have to have people permitted to carry concealed.
Yeah.
Well, I do like everyone having a similar level of firearms training if they're going to be carrying. It's not something that's not up to the government to be able to tell somebody you need to have this training.
Yeah.
That's on a personal responsibility level.
Right.
And with this,
it's more of like a parental role,
yeah,
frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was brought up that way. I started hunting at 12, and I think everyone should go through hunter safety and hunter education at a young age. But again, it's not up to the government. I just think it should be a more viable option for people to be able to do.
Well, I just want to take this minute to shout out a few of the companies that I really admire and respect. The first one's going to be The Table. This is a coffee shop located in Loveland, Colorado at Res Church. They're actually open all the time, not just on Sundays. They are closed on Saturdays though, but this is handcrafted gourmet coffee. So freaking good. You got to check it out. The other one is going to be Alp nicotine pouches. Okay. This is Tucker Carlson's nicotine pouch brand. Okay. So stop supporting the woke companies. Check out Tucker Carlson's Alp nicotine pouch brand. You can do 3, 6, or 9 milligram nicotine pouches. Alp is spelled A-L-P. Okay, go check that out. You have to order them online. You can't get them at gas stations. So you're gonna have to order them online. So make sure you give yourself plenty of time. If you have a nicotine craving, like order it, 2 weeks before your nicotine craving hits. The last one that I want to shout out is For God and Country Cigars. Okay, this is a hand-rolled premium tobacco brand. These guys source their cigars from the Dominican Republic. Very good, high quality tobacco. You can get those on their website, forgodandcountry.com. For God and Country Cigars, 2% of all of their proceeds go towards fighting child sex trafficking, okay? They actually support organizations, former Navy SEALs, military guys. They actually go in and rescue people who are being human trafficked, okay? So they support very good cause. Go check those guys out, forgodandcountry.com. Premium handcrafted rolled cigars. Check it out. Okay, here's an interesting one. What do you think about teachers or even like hiring a security guard, like just a full-time security guard, armed security guard, armed teachers? What do you think about that?
I train school faculty to do that. So yeah, I'm definitely in support of that.
Is it legal in Colorado?
Charter and private it is.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Good. Yeah. What about public schools? You support that?
I do, but we're never going to get there. I mean, not overnight anyway. So
yeah, I really think it's an issue of messaging. I think when you put it, I know, like, I do understand, and it's logical. It's a logical argument to say that it's not the gun, it's the person behind the gun, more kind of blaming mental illness. I really think it's in Republicans' interest for the messaging to actually look at the victim, because the goal of the Second Amendment, other than fighting off a tyrannical government, would be to protect the most vulnerable people in society. So whether that's women or children, or I mean men too, but people don't really feel too bad about when men get hurt. But no, like the purpose is to protect oneself. Mm-hmm. And really, like, I think, and children, like the mass shooting thing, Colorado is one of the worst states when it comes to mass shootings, if you just look at the last several decades. But to me, guns are actually the solution to that. At least that would mitigate any potential mass shooter that were to come in if they're being shot at. Mm-hmm. Ideally, they're killed before they kill anyone. Right. But at least the damage won't be as bad, especially if teachers are armed or you have security guards there already that are packing, they're ready to go. Someone starts opening fire, boom, it should be over within 5 seconds. Yeah. But no, it just like framing it in a way, this is actually to protect the children. Do you care? Like, really, like, do you care about protecting children? Democrats should be forced to answer that question. Mm-hmm. Do you care about protecting children? Because that's what we're trying to do. And you're not. You're clearly not. You're trying to take guns. Guns actually make, it's a net benefit to society. It actually makes it safer. Mm-hmm. People have the idea guns equal danger. It actually equals safety. Yeah. Like, a gun range is the safest place you're ever going to go to. So I don't know. I think just like it's a paradigm shift. I think the Republicans need, also making an emotionally compelling argument. Democrats should be forced to answer, why don't you want women who are being raped to be able to protect themselves? Mm-hmm. Really? Like, I don't know. To me, it just seems like the messaging should be so easy. It's emotionally compelling. It's logical. Republicans are really good at making a logical argument, but they're not great at appealing to people's emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about all
Well,
that?
we do have that, and I've said
Yeah.
those points myself in the Judiciary Committee when we've heard these bills come through.
Mhm.
And there's one parent that comes in often to testify in support of these anti-gun bills, and his son was killed in Columbine. So
Right.
his argument is kids should feel safe to be in school. And that's the thing is, well, don't you think having more school resource officers, more armed security, more armed
Right.
faculty there?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. More guns doesn't make them feel safer. And it's like, well, okay. And my whole ideology behind that is just trying to convince people that the only way you can fix bullets going one way is have bullets going both ways.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Why would you only want the bad guy to have
yeah,
a gun?
yeah.
It doesn't
Or
make
the ability
sense.
to shoot innocent unarmed people.
Yeah, and they've actually run this experiment. Well, many times. I mean, if you look at the cities and states with the highest restrictions on guns,
Mm-hmm.
those are always the most violent, most dangerous. But also, they actually did the opposite experiment. There's a town in Georgia, Kennesaw, Georgia. I don't know if you're familiar with this case, but Kennesaw, Georgia, instituted a policy. They called it mandatory gun ownership. It wasn't mandatory. You could opt out, but they basically bought. I think it was a Glock.
Mm-hmm.
They bought all of their citizens a firearm. Within 1 year, their violent crime dropped 80%. Okay. So it's a smallish town. It's only like 30 or 40,000 people, but an 80% drop in violent crime in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because everyone had a gun and
Right.
people knew like you're not gonna mess with somebody if there's a good chance that they have a firearm on them. I don't know. To me, it just seems obvious, but I'm sure it seems obvious to you too.
No,
but.
it does. And the fact that the Democrats keep pointing at firearms as the issue, it's not even that. It's crisis.
Yeah.
And you have New Orleans where the guy drove his truck down the alley during that block party, killed multiple people before he was stopped. But how was he stopped? By armed professionals.
Yeah.
And then just anything that you have, vehicles are always an issue when somebody can't get a firearm or otherwise. There's knives, there's gas, there's explosives. Somebody's going to find the means to do harm to people if that's what their intent and goal is to do. So having more people with the ability to protect themselves is the only way to stop that from happening.
Yeah. Yeah. The gun, like the magazine capacity restrictions make me laugh. It's laughable because you're really going to tell a mass shooter, oh, nope, you had 10 rounds in that magazine. You're only supposed to have 5. And it's like the person's committing a mass shooting. Any barrier leading up to that is nothing.
Yeah.
It's already illegal to murder people.
Yeah.
So once you've established that this person is willing to murder people, anything leading up to that is nothing.
Right.
Like they're not going to obey a stupid magazine capacity ban. Like, I don't know. It's just like, just think about for 5 seconds what you're actually proposing.
And it's always something that's going to negatively impact law-abiding gun owners. The criminals are going to do what criminals do anyway.
Right.
And we don't have harsh enough penalties for criminals.
Yeah.
Where we came from being, even Colorado and California were both states that did 3 strikes, you're out. If you got 3 felonies, you were in life in prison. So you lost all your rights. You spent your life in prison from 3 felonies. Now you get 3 felonies, you're on probation. So I mean, it's just a matter of people are way too forgiven for any level of crime, and there's no boundary. There's no hard line for people to say what's too far.
Well, I'm sure you've probably exhausted, just on the Second Amendment issue. I'm sure you've talked about that a lot recently. So we can move on. Is it right? I saw somewhere that you had something kind of go viral on X. I don't know if it was an argument that you were making on the floor. Is that right? Did you have like some traction on X? Like you had a video go viral or something?
A few of us did. My colleague Jarvis Caldwell had one go.
That's right. Okay.
His went way more viral.
Okay.
He ended up on Fox News and Newsmax.
What was that all about? What was that related to?
1312, the bill that takes away parental rights for dead naming or misgendering their kids.
Well, let's talk about that. So can you explain what 1312 is?
Yeah, it is probably the most horrible bill I've seen go through as easily as it did in the Capitol. And yeah, it started out bad, but it ended up almost just as bad. I think a few things were tweaked out of it, but essentially, if you're in a bad marriage or you're going through a bad divorce, it can easily be something that's weaponized against you. For any parent of their kid, that one parent or the other, or the school, or somebody in their life can convince them that they are born in the wrong body and need to transition to whatever gender they want to choose.
Which is not hard to do for a child.
If the parent opposes that, the parent can essentially lose their rights of custody. They lose their custody of the kid.
Yeah.
Or kids, for that matter. So it can be one parent doing it against the other, convincing that their kid that they were born in the wrong body. And if your mom or dad tells you otherwise, let me know. And
does this specifically refer to children in the bill, or does it just not exclude children?
It doesn't exclude children, but that's one of the portions.
But it's
of the bill.
Open.
Yeah,
it's an open. Okay.
Yeah. So the other part is just civil infractions. It turns it into a civil infraction if you misgender or dead name somebody.
Okay, meaning you can be sued.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Like just on the street?
Yep.
So not even like a workplace environment.
It would be he said, she said kind of a thing. So it would.
What about social media?
Yeah, that would probably be the more likely of the places where it's documented. It's in text.
Do both parties have to be Colorado citizens for that to be enforced?
I don't know. I'd have to look at that.
Huh. That's wild. Mm-hmm. That is so freaking wild. If that's not a violation of the First Amendment, I don't know what is.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. I wonder, yeah, I mean, even just, first of all, even just like making a joke. Like if if there's a guy, if you're buddies with someone and you say, you're a girl, you're acting like a girl or something like that, or you swing the baseball bat like you're a girl. I don't know, that's silly, but yeah, that's really scary. I'm actually going through a custody battle right now with my third child. Mm-hmm. And the thought of that, I mean, I don't think she would do that, hopefully, right. But yeah, I mean, it's shocking to me that something like that could actually mean the difference between you seeing your child or not. And actually, the government is forcing you to lie to your child. Yeah. It's actually, you're forcing them to lie.
Yeah. Or buying into somebody's ideology.
Yeah.
Delusion. Yeah. So, and if you don't, you can be sued for it.
Man. And is there any kind of recourse? Is there any judiciary challenge to that can be done, or are we just kind of stuck with that?
I think, the only recourse you'd have is proving intent. That you were, because it has to show intention that you're intending to.
Let me clarify. I mean, is there any way to change the law?
Suing. I mean, just taking action when it becomes law.
Yeah.
Taking it up through Supreme Court, and the same thing we do with all the gun laws.
Right. And is it just a majority vote that would be able to overturn that, assuming Republicans could get a majority vote someday?
Yeah, and that's one thing, getting it repealed through the legislature.
Okay.
But otherwise, Supreme Court, and Colorado Supreme Court is hopelessly liberal. So
yeah. Where are we at on time here?
2:27.
Okay. Okay. So I don't like all these laws. There's not much you can do in the minority, but I don't like all these laws that are passing in Colorado. I think a lot of people are pissed off. I think even Democrats, particularly the gun bill, were really embarrassed about that. If you looked on Polis's page when he made that post, like holding up the thing, and after he just signed it, overwhelmingly negative reactions. I mean, like you can see the ratios, like likes to angry emojis or whatever. His own page, it was like 80 or 90% negative. So there's no way this is popular. And even like the trans the kids thing. I mean, like there's been polling done on this nationally. Colorado, it's blue, but it's not that different. But it's like 80% of people don't think kids should be allowed to transition until they're 18. Yeah. Like 18, people are like, okay, if you're 18, you're an adult, make your own decisions. Maybe it should be 21. I don't know, but certainly not 17, 16, or 9.
Right.
No,
and I think last year or the year before, that bill probably wouldn't have passed.
Yeah.
I've seen bills that extreme get killed, and it cost a couple people. Bills like that cost a couple Democrats their reelection. So,
but there's no way that's popular, right?
No.
Even in Colorado, there's no way it's popular.
I think they're just trying to push it so far over the margin because we flipped seats last election.
Yeah.
Trump was elected last election.
Yeah.
This is just with the Trump derangement syndrome and with the spiteful attitude of, if you're going to take this back, we're going to make it as hard to repair for you as possible.
Right.
And I think what they're doing is going so far over the edge with crazy radical bills that it's something that would take us decade or more to
Right.
get out of.
Okay. So now moving forward, a lot of people are pissed off. People want this kind of want to strangle. It feels like we're being strangled as Colorado citizens because you have the fees. They're not taxes; they're fees, and like just we're just being attacked on every front. And what can we do? I mean, really, what do you think about this upcoming governor election? Do you think anything can happen? Is there anyone that you think could give us a shot? How do we stop the bleeding?
The governor election's hard. Honestly, I think without having somebody that has already a celebrity, like a ton of name recognition, it's going to be hard to find somebody that gets recognized by everybody. You'd have to have like a John Elway kind of a figure or more than that to be able to win that seat. I'm not saying it's unwinnable. I would. It seems like it's gotten a little bit closer every time, but we get somebody a little stronger every time to at least expose things, to at least let people know. And I think that's one of the main things that we all need to focus on in every district, every House district, every Senate district, every election, local, municipal, county, state, everything. There should never be a Democrat unopposed in a seat.
Yeah.
There should be somebody stepping up to fill on the Republican ticket just to run against them. If nothing else, to expose some of the radical things that are being done.
Yeah.
Even if it's a moderate Democrat that isn't doing extreme, whatever it is in their title, in their position, somebody that can just say, look, these ideologies, these ideas on the conservative side are good in this way. If if we actually change this, we could get this back, and and just being able to have somebody show the contrast, because I think there's so many of these elections where people are like, well, this is all we've got. So they're either not voting because there's nobody in their party to vote for, or it's somebody just doing the blank ticket vote to get whoever reelected because they're unopposed.
Do you think so you think it comes down to name recognition, basically? So how would you is there a way that we can convince someone like a John Elway or Peyton Manning to run? Is it just, I mean, I know like they have a lot to lose because they're making a lot of money. Both sides like them because they're not really viewed as political figures. But the moment you throw your hat in the ring, it's like, well, now half the people hate you.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the biggest turnoffs is the toxicity that's in politics. I think so many people are turned off by that. Like, I would never run for that. I'd never run for office. I'd never do anything like that because of the temperature that comes with it. So I think, this year was a perfect example of that with the infighting in the 2A community.
Yeah. Sure.
But the overall toxicity, I mean, our job at the Capitol in the minority, that 4 months is horrible. That's by far the worst job I've ever had. With law enforcement, military, combat tours. Yeah. That's the worst job I've ever had. So
wow,
that's
saying a lot.
Yeah. This 8 months off is, the redemption, because you get out and meet the people in the district and shake hands. And
how common is it for you to receive threats, like physical threats? Like even just like on social media, just random.
Social media is more credible threats. I think people are pretty careful because they know it's a felony. But I've had 4 legitimate threats, and there are people that kind of inflate that. There are people that, I'm getting death threats every day now. Yeah, not our party, but because we've checked that with State Patrol or whatever. It's like, you heard anything about these death threats? Our office hasn't received any notifications of death threats. So it's a lot of. I guess in a way peacocking to say I'm doing this and I'm getting all these death threats, but I've gotten 4 over now 3 years of legislation. So
I had Ryan Gonzalez on last week, and someone stabbed his tires. I don't know if you heard about that, but
and vandalism happens. I mean, my car's been vandalized too, but there have been, compared to what he had and what Byron Pelton had, somebody carved some words into the hood of his new Bronco. Yeah.
Oh wow. So that pissed me off. Golly, brand new car. Okay, so I know we're in the minority. It feels like we're playing defense a lot. Are there ways that we can kind of put the Democrats on defense, or are we just kind of subject to their will?
Well, I can tell you that what we are doing works. it doesn't work at a rate that we need it to work.
Mm.
We've gotten, not just, I can't give the Republican Party all the credit, but they've had a lot of people vacate their seats, and they've had a lot of people not run for reelection. And I've heard people, when we were debating bills, we'd be going till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And one of the Democrats sitting behind us last year, it was me and Gabe Evans, was sitting there, and one guy, a new guy, leaned over to another guy and said, "Do they ever get tired?" And he said, "Never." That we'll be here all night. And
Yeah.
I just was like, well, they didn't say that very quietly. I kind of leaned over and elbowed Gabe, and he's like, "Yep." So they definitely feel it. What we're doing works. There are probably better ways of doing things to really give it to them. But I mean, the things that we're doing on the leadership level, I'm part of the leadership team. We communicate a lot with the Democrat leadership.
Yeah.
And we know, especially toward the end of session, they are imploding. So we definitely push them to the limit. And by
How
the
so?
end, I think just the debating is the biggest
Okay.
part. When somebody knows they're running a horrible bill, and we spend 8 or 10 or 12 hours debating it on the House
Yeah.
floor, same thing in committee, they have to sit there and just get beat up on their bill the whole time.
Yeah.
I know what it feels like to get beat up on a bill, but not to that degree.
Right.
So to have them constantly run these bills that they know are just going to be beat up and torn apart, and still pass, but they're not many of them want to put their name on a bill like that moving forward.
So tell me what you think about this. So I know Colorado Republicans are very hesitant to kind of, how would you say, like give their authentic views on something, because it's a blue state. The biggest voting bloc are going to be independents. And so for example, like, it's very rare that you hear a Colorado Republican say that they support an outright abortion ban. So that's like one example. Or, support, legalizing bump stocks or automatic weapons. Even though most Republicans probably do feel that way, they're kind of embarrassed to say it and want to avoid those questions. What would you, here's my thing, is like, that's how we've been doing it. We've been trying to be like super duper moderate and kind of Republican light for so long. But here we are losing. And so I wonder if people are just looking for Republicans to take a principled stance and like actually like really fight for what you believe in, rather than kind of like cowering away from it. Well, I don't want to answer that question. Or like, Republicans a lot of times don't want to take a hard stance on something because they're afraid that they're going to be perceived as extreme. So like, I don't know. What would you think about someone like a Lauren Boebert, like, running for governor? Maybe she doesn't win, but it's like, we keep throwing up these very, I don't want to insult anyone. I've talked to Heidi Ganahl before, but like, kind of like non-exciting, very like moderate kind of candidates, but they're losing. They keep losing. Why not take a chance and roll the dice on someone who like is a firebrand?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
I think we've got a little bit of that this go around already. And we'll see where that goes. But just the friends of mine that I've seen that have thrown their hat in the ring, Scott Bottoms is one of them.
He's going to be on here soon.
Yeah. Jason Mikesell is another one.
Okay.
Just there's a good handful of people that
Scott
are
is a
very
preacher,
outspoken.
right?
Yeah.
Have you heard him preach before?
Just clips. I've never.
Okay, I need to check that out, because a lot of times preachers, they at least can speak very well and powerfully.
Oh yeah.
So
Scott's one of our better people in the well. He can go for hours.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, I mean, maybe the guy like that is what it takes. I don't know, but I don't know. What do you think about the idea of like just embracing? What about just like embracing, Trump and like his effect, dude? Like, this last election, all 3 times that he's run for president, the country has moved more and more to the right. Even the year that he lost, New York Times just read an article about this. Even the year that he lost, most counties actually trended toward his favor.
Right.
It was very like small. It was the counties that mattered, conveniently enough, but it was a very small handful of counties that actually went more in Biden's direction.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about just like being like, let's do this. Let's just, I don't know. Let's like stand for something. I just get disappointed when these Republicans are like afraid to actually speak their mind.
Yeah.
And they kind of a lot of times will sabotage like the MAGAs, and the MAGAs will sabotage who they call the rhinos, and yeah. So there's a lot of infighting, but I don't know. I feel like we've tried the like moderate Republican
Yeah.
way.
Well, I think we'll have more of those fireworks this next election, but at the same time, at least in the primary, at the same time, the other side of that are the people that go more with the polling, like what's polling as popular topics and what are people statewide really worried about. I had to do that for my district, and my district's pretty conservative, so I don't have to have a moderate stance on anything. But at the same time, there are still a lot of independents that I'm not going to talk about abortion at their door because they might not have the same opinion as I do, versus the Republicans that, 95% of them are definitely going to be pro-life. So those conversations are easy, but the conversations that I think people might appear more milquetoast is where they have to appease those independent voters that are just like, well, I kind of agree with this, but I don't agree with you on that. It's like, well, then sounds like majority of what you agree with is what I'm telling you about. So I do see how that happens in a campaign and during debates and things like that. But
what do you think are the issues that whoever is the nominee, maybe they don't have a great chance, but what are the issues that you think would give them the best chance? If they're like hitting these, 3 or 4 issues, like what do Coloradans really care about? What is going to like change their vote potentially? What issues?
The same issues that anyone can agree on, no matter what side of the aisle they're on.
Economy.
And that's economy, affordability, public safety, and overall just the taxes and fees. Cost of living and taxes and fees are the biggest thing. And when you have people that are deflecting from that, that's where people are like, okay, I don't like that. I'm gonna lean more this way this election. Because you have people that have not only a voting record, but they have their names on bills that are doing doublespeak. Chad Clifford, I think, is a perfect example of that. And he says one thing and jumps on a bill to do the other thing.
Yeah.
So, but,
how common is it for Republicans in the House to propose bills that maybe they know will be shot down, but it forces Democrats to defend basically indefensible positions? So like just proposing legislation to lower taxes. Okay. Well, now Democrats have to argue for, keeping those taxes or increasing taxes. Whereas Republicans get to be seen as, hey, we're trying to lower your taxes, guys, but the Democrats won't let us do it. Produce, that type of legislation, or even like with the 1312 bill, what about just trying to propose a bill that says kids can't consent to sexual decisions? Even those things. Well, now Democrats are going to have to be forced to defend the idea that children can make sexual decisions for themselves, that they can consent under the age of 18. But like proposing those types of bills where it's like, yes, we're technically on defense, we're in the minority, but it's making they have to defend their beliefs now. They're actually going to be on the defense just by virtue of the fact that they have to argue against clearly good things.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And we do that.
Yeah.
It's hard to find, like, I have a hard time running bills that I know are immediately going to fail. I've done it. I've had 3 or 4 bills that have been destined. Well, this year, more than probably 5 bills this year that were destined to fail between Senate bills and House bills. But we do have people that will run all their bills are those messaging bills just to go into committee, and it's going to get killed immediately in committee. And the Democrats will do everything that they can to kill it as quickly and efficiently as possible so that it doesn't make media, it doesn't get any attention. People have no idea. They're completely oblivious that it was even introduced, let alone heard in committee. And it could be something where you have 100 or 200 people show up to testify in committee, and they'll shut down the testimony for 2 minutes each and up to 5 hours total. And then they're shutting off testimony. So you've got 12 hours of testimony that gets condensed to 5 hours, and the rest of those people don't get heard.
What is the threshold that has to be met in order for debate to take place on a bill?
Oh, any debate can, as far as public testimony, or what do you mean?
Oh, I just mean like the only thing that has to happen for a bill to be debated is just that it's proposed.
Yeah.
Like just one sponsor can.
You can, yep, a
Okay.
single sponsor. You don't even need like if you're running a House bill, you can be the prime sponsor in the House and not even have any Senate sponsors.
Mm,
But having a bill that's not bipartisan in
right.
the minority it's going to die. It's going to die
Right.
immediately
Right.
if it even gets heard.
I guess I was just more curious, just for my own knowledge, like what actually has to happen for a debate to even occur.
Yeah.
But and then is there like a minimum guaranteed amount of time that you get to debate something?
So it depends on the bill.
Okay.
If they know there's going to be a heavy, long, contentious debate, then they'll say, the debate for this bill will end after 6 hours starting time
And who
now.
decides what
The
that length
chair of the committee
Okay.
and all Democrats.
Huh. Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have any chairs of committees, so
Yeah. And so I know this past cycle we clawed our way out of the super minority. Yes. And what kinds of things are we able to do now that we couldn't do when we were in the super minority? Is there like a big difference there, or is it basically?
it's nice. There are certain things that they can't get on a majority vote because certain members of their own caucus aren't in support of certain things. But in committees, a lot of committees, we got an extra person because of that. Judiciary, we got an extra person. Business, we got an extra person. Those are the two committees I sit on. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have that extra person there to
Mm.
help potentially kill bills. But unfortunately, this wasn't the year
Yeah.
of killing any bills. They let every bill they could through
Okay.
of their own.
All right. Well, so I'm curious about just like you as a person. So how did you like decide that you wanted to be involved in politics in the first place? And then also, how did you become the House Minority Whip? Like that's a big deal, right?
Yeah. Well, coming out of the military.
That's pretty gangster, bro. Not gonna lie. Right here. Come on, let's go.
Coming out of the military was one thing, but coming out of law enforcement was even bigger. I did have a Back the Blue rally when I got out of law enforcement in 2020.
Okay.
Had a Back the Blue rally in Berthoud. We had about 350 people show up and perfectly peaceful. Everything was great, really supportive and positive.
Wow.
And the town came back afterward and said we assaulted people and we did all these things. And so it was all this bad messaging.
The timing of that, I'm sure, was very hostile.
So before that, retired military, retired law enforcement. I never had any intention of getting into politics until that day. I said I wanted to be mayor of the town of Berthoud. I wanted to get on the town board and work my way up.
Yeah.
But then this seat opened up for House District 64. So it took me some coursing from Hugh McKean and Mike Lynch at the time. But I eventually threw my hat in the ring there, and path was paved then ever since. And my military leadership and law enforcement, I don't like not being in a leadership position. I feel like I have a lot to offer there. So I basically
you don't like taking orders from people.
It's not even that. It's just that.
Well, I'll admit that for myself. I don't like taking orders from people.
I always feel like there's a better way to lead, so I just prefer to be in there. But
yeah,
that I shadowed the outgoing whip when he was running for Congress. So Richard Woltorf.
Okay.
And then so he basically shadowed me all of last year. And when I ran this year, I was unopposed and unanimous.
So whip is a position you run for.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it was unopposed? Do you think people just knew that you were going to win, or do you think that no one wanted that job?
I think both. Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing sexy about it.
Job,
yeah. So but for me, it's exactly what I wanted. So.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I know, like, dude, I'm sure being in the minority, like when you're the leadership and you're in the minority, and I'm sure you get blamed a lot, even though, like, hey man, I did everything I could. Mm-hmm. Like that would be a very difficult position. It's like being the quarterback of a team that, like, doesn't have a wide receiver or doesn't have an offensive line. And you're like, well, I'm doing the best I can, but I don't have any linemen here. Like, but, gosh, yeah, that would be a really difficult position to be in, but I think you're doing about as good of a job as you can do.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a couple of minutes left. Are there any kind of like final words or things that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to? Like, and also, like, I don't know if you want to say anything else about the Rocky Mountain gun owners thing. Yeah, I just want to open it up to you for the last couple of minutes here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I think the biggest thing for me is people that have known me throughout still know me. They know who I am and who I'm about. I've never pretended to be anything I'm not. If anyone ever questions anything on any of my legislation or otherwise anything I stand for, they can reach right out to me. I'm as candid as the next guy, if not more. I don't have anything to hide, and I don't have anything to be ashamed of. So I'm gladly very open to have discussions and debates with people over anything.
Yeah.
We can agree to disagree in the end, but one way or the other, I'm doing what I'm doing for my district and for this state, and trying to hold up the last banyan of effort and good that we can potentially get back to in the state that I was born in. So
heck yeah. Yeah, it seems like your heart's in the right place, and you just want what's best for Colorado citizens. I did see, so I listened to the Tim Pool podcast, and so it was really cool because after we'd already planned to do this podcast, they were talking about you on the show. Doesn't really matter what they were saying, but I thought it was cool. Like, holy cow, like they're talking about the guy that I'm about to have on my podcast. And I just got excited. I didn't care what they were saying about you, but
I don't either.
But anyway, well, do you want to shout out a website or social media? How can people find you or get a hold of you if they want to?
Website's armagost64.com. Otherwise, that's my personal business is teamamericatactical.com. You can kind of see what I'm all about.
Yeah.
But otherwise that's.
Oh, there was one more question that everyone wanted me to ask you. So you have a lot of like silly videos on social media. So like what's the goal and what are you trying to do? Like, I don't know, because you're wearing some silly outfits and just, I don't know, dancing. Like, what's going on there?
No, this was years ago, like 2020 or 2021, and I was promoting a patriotic clothing brand, and we kind of had a contest of who could go the most over the top on patriotic.
Okay. Did you win?
I won. But I will not. That's competitive in nature, but I will not. I'll go to any degree to win. When I put my heart and mind to it. So
heck yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. We'll have to do it again one of these days. Thank you. Thank you for tuning into the Better Nate Than Ever podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next week.